Start. Shalom Aleichem, everyone. How are you? Hope all is well. I can't believe it. We're sitting now. It's Wednesday. Purim is literally 3-4 days away, and the year has flown by over here. Baruch Hashem, things are going well. We are not kind of petering toward the end of the Zman. Things are still good in the Beis Medrash, Baruch Hashem. There was a real Koach HaTorah, Kol Torah, and things are well. Today I want to dedicate the shir to Mr. David Grossman, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Who is David Grossman? You all know, maybe some of you don't, but many of you know Seth Grossman. Seth Grossman is a very close friend of mine, close friend of Rabbi Safra of the Yeshiva in general, who gets involved sometimes in our Tiulim, plays on intramural basketball, is very involved in the Yeshiva. His father passed away very suddenly earlier this week, and the Kvura was mamash yesterday here in Yerushalayim, in Har HaMenuchos. And again, I don't know if you guys remember Seth so well. Seth is a real Ben Torah, a real Yarei Shamayim, great learners, Kovei Itima Torah in a very significant way. He's part of Rabbi Safra's Chabura, as you all know, participates in a lot of our yeshiva activities. And Seth's just an all-around great guy. His father passed away very suddenly. Seth gave a hesped, and unbelievable hesped. It was, on the one hand, I've never been at such a hesped where we were laughing a lot. Seth was being himself, a lot of jokes about a lot of different things, but really, really captured the essence of his father. Someone who was just a giver in the most dramatic sense possible, just always looking to give, both to strangers and to friends and to family, children, adults, was just there as a giver, a person who loved Rabbanim, who loved Torah, who loved Yiddishkeit, who loved Eretz Yisrael. And I had met Mr. Grossman a number of times through my relationship with Seth, but then really to hear about him at the Hesped and really, really capture so much about such a wonderful person. So we'll dedicate today's Dvar Torah to Mr. David Grossman. So we are at Purim, and a thought which I think is a very, very profound and important idea. When it comes to Purim, we have two very, very dramatic chazals. There's one chazal that is quoted in the Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi is found in Megillah, Perek Aleph, Os Hey, and the Yerushalmi says something amazing. It's also quoted by the Rambam at the end of Hilchos Megillah in the Rambam, that during the Yemos HaMashiach, La'asid Lavo, all of the Sifrei Nach, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim will become batel except for one sefer. The one sefer that's not going to become batel is Megillas Esther. Vitzarachi and Gadol, what is so unique, so special about Megillas Esther, that's the sefer that's going to survive of the Sifrei Tanakh, even La'asid Lavo, or even during the time of Yemos HaMashiach. That's striking chazal number one. Striking chazal number two is the very well-known Gemara in Masechet Shabbos Daf Peches, the famous Gemara of Kafa Aleim Har Kegigis. The Gemara that tells us that during the time of Kabbalas HaTorah, so Hashem took the mountain, literally turned it upside down over the people's head and said, you have a choice, either accept the Torah or Sham Tehei Kfuraschem, or you'll be buried right here under this mountain. So of course the people said, Nasav and Ishma, we'll take the Torah, we'll accept the Torah. Gemara says they were Makabel HaTorah under duress. And then later, they were Makabel the Torah Meratzon. When was later? So the Gemara concludes that during the time of Purim, Kimu v'kiblu ha-Yehudim, the Yehudim were makabel the Torah once again, me'ahava, out of ratzon, no longer under that sense of duress. And therefore Purim is a celebration, not just of a Yeshua, but a celebration of a Simcha Shel Torah, a celebration of a Kabbalas HaTorah, a renewed sense of Kabbalas HaTorah. In fact, the She'il Toaster Rabbi Chai Gon says that anytime you have an accomplishment, a meaningful event of Talmud Torah, you're supposed to celebrate with a Suda. Today, our dear friend Shmuel Rees just made a Siyum, and he celebrated that Siyum with a Suda. Anytime you have a significant accomplishment in learning, there's a Suda. By Kabbalas HaTorah, the Torah tells us in Parshat Mishpatim, Vayizbach Zvachim, they brought karbanos to celebrate that event of Kabbalas HaTorah, Shavuos time, where Rabbi Eliezer says when it comes to all the other Yom Tovim, O Kula LaHashem, O Kula Lachem, either celebrate all LaHashem or all Lachem on Yontif of Shavuos. Rabbi Eliezer says in Gemara Beit Tzadaf in the second parak, He argues and he says, on Shavuos, that's the one Chag, one Yantif, where you have to have a Suda. You have to go partially lachem, because accomplishments in Kabbalas HaTorah have to be commemorated with a Suda. And therefore argues Rav the Shiltos that when it comes to our Sudas Purim is also a celebration of Kabbalas HaTorah, a celebration of an accomplishment of an achievement of Torah. The Kabbalas HaTorah Meiratzon of Chag Purim during the time of Achashverosh is memorialized and commemorated in our Sudas Purim. An accomplishment in Torah requires a Sudas mitzvah. But the question, of course, begs itself: what exactly is the meaning of this second Chazal? Why is it that during the time of Kabbalas HaTorah at Har Sinai, Kafla and Har Kigus, it was under duress, and all of a sudden now, Dafka at Chag Purim, do we have a renewed sense of Kabbalas HaTorah? So to understand, I think, both of these Chazals, we have to go a little bit into the story of Purim and what the Megillah is all about. And we all know, it's well noted, and many Sfarim developed the idea that Purim and the story of Purim, it sounds like a fairy tale. A story of kings and queens, a sinister villain, a hero that saves the day. It's a fairy tale. It's a Grimm's fairy tale type of story. What, of course, is the deeper message is the idea that although everything happened through political events and plotting and scheming and planning, but behind the scenes, everything, and I mean everything, was perfectly orchestrated by Hashem, and Hashem was just kind of maneuvering behind the scenes. The idea of Nes Nistar is that everything looked natural, everything looked normal, everything could be explained away, but things happened too perfectly, were orchestrated too well, that there had to be a master plan, there had to be a design behind everything that was going on. So we open up, the Megillah opens up with the party of Achashverosh, the party of Vashti. And we're already told in the beginning, before it's even necessary, there's no plot against the Jews, but Vashti is deposed, and miraculously, what are the odds? Esther Yirakrokes Havia, not an attractive Esther, green Esther, she's the one that's chosen to replace Vashti. And then in the beginning of the Megillah, once again, big son Viserys plotting to kill the king. Mordechai overhears it, saves the day. It's recorded in Sefer HaZichronos, but nothing's done about it. We're just going to hold on to that, save it for later. Somehow, Haman is going to rise to power, is going to have his plot. He's going to have a a lottery that decides the day that the Jews are going to be killed. And of course, he starts to prepare that eitz that is 50 amos high, that everyone knows what's going to happen over here. Everyone knows what the plan is. And then, of course, Achashverosh has that sleepless night. In the middle of the night, he wakes up, reads his Sefer HaZichronos, opens up to the exact right page. Mordechai, Haman, is asked, what should we do for this person, Asher HaMelech Chafetz Bikaro? And Haman, with his plots, has his plan, has his vision. And of course, everything is v'nafochu. Everything comes back, all of Haman's plans, all of his plotting, all of his schemes will come back in this tremendous boomerang to reverse themselves, and everything he sought for himself will ultimately go to Mordechai, and the demise, everything that was destined for Mordechai in Haman's world, including being hung up on that 50 amma tree, that's ultimately Haman's destiny. Everything is worked out, and it's worked out hikdim refuah lamaka. The cure is in place even before the disease is there. And things just work out so perfectly until finally la Yehudim haisa oira v'simcha v'sasan v'ikar. That's the story of Purim. If you want to deny Hashem in the picture, you certainly can. But if you open your eyes a little bit and see that Hashem does not just operate with the Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Nisim Gluyim, but also operates behind the scenes. You open your eyes a little bit, and all of a sudden everything gets revealed in its glory, in its majesty, in its amazing orchestration. That's what Chag Purim is about. That's what Megillas Esther is about. And therefore, arguably, during the time of Yemos HaMashiach, we're going to have another tremendous Gilui Shechina. We're going to see Hashem everywhere. His presence is going to be palpable, just like it was at Yetzias Mitzrayim, Eser Makos, Kriyas Yamsef, Kabbalas HaTorah. His presence is going to be palpable. It's going to be so evident, just like it was so evident at Kabbalas HaTorah. And perhaps the Pshat in the Gemara Maseches Shabbos is as follows. Did Hashem take the mountain, pick it up, and threaten us with death? Take the Torah or else you die? Is that the idea? Perhaps what the Gemara is telling us. And the message is, things were so clear at Har Sinai. So crystal clear. The Yad Hashem was so obvious after Yetzias Mitzrayim. Bnei Yisrael didn't have a choice whether to accept the Torah or not. There was no Bechira Chavshis. Of course they're going to accept the Torah. Hashem is present. He is here. He's literally in front of us. Of course, Naaseh v'nishma. There was no Bechira. That's the message of Kaflaim Harkagigas. There was no choice. It was yes or yes. And therefore we were under duress of the obvious circumstance. You see, that changed during the Nes of Purim. The Nes of Purim, you had to wear the right glasses. It was there for you to see, but it was less obvious. And that's when Klal Yisrael had a choice to reaffirm their commitment to Torah or to say, no, this is just politics. This is just things happen to work out in a way that allowed us to overcome Haman. You could have read the events that way, or you could see Yad Hashem behind every single step of the way. That was a Bechira point. And Bnei Yisrael said, Kimu v'kiblu ha-Yehudim, kimu masha kiblu kvar. That is why there was a reaffirmation, dafka now, when it wasn't this clear. The Nisim were there, but only for those who had the right set of glasses. It was a Nes Nistar, but to be able to see it would reaffirm our commitment to Torah Hashem, and that's the celebration of that reaffirmation, a new Simcha Shel Torah, a new Simcha Shel Mitzvah. That's exactly the Yushalmi as well. Because during the time of Mashiach, we'll have that same level of clarity. You're going to see Yad Hashem just like Bnei Yisrael saw it at Har Sinai, just like we saw it at Mitzrayim. But at the same time, you're also going to see trees growing, and babies being born, and a digestive system working, and your eyes working. You're going to see all those things, and that you might argue, that's nature. Hashem's doing the dramatic things, but the day-to-day, that will still perhaps fall into the trap and say that's nature. So comes the Yushalmi and says all the other Sifrei Nach, which celebrate the Nisim that Hashem does, the drama that Hashem does, those are going to be batel. But Megillas Esther, which celebrates Hashem behind the scenes, Hashem in nature, Hashem when you perhaps would choose not to see Him. The Megillah tells us, no, that for sure is Hashem also. Be aware, everything is Yad Hashem. And that is our miracle, and that is the Nes of Chag HaPurim. And that's what we celebrate on Chag HaPurim. We celebrate Hashem not just in the Golui, but Hashem in the Nistar. And if we wear those right glasses, so then the confusion starts to dissipate. And perhaps one could suggest that's why we use wine to help us put on those right glasses. Because sometimes our natural inhibitors put up blockages, and we get confused. We lack that sense of clarity. Nichnas yayin, we drink a little bit and we release those inhibitors and we start to see the world with a crystal clear sense of clarity that the Ribono Shalom runs everything, is everywhere, and is operating behind the scenes in everything that happens. That's our challenge, not to get caught up in the shtuyot of Purim. And believe me, there's plenty of shtuyot, plenty of narishkeit, but to tap in to the Itzumo Shal Yom, where we see Yad Hashem in everything, not just in the Golui, but certainly in the Nistar. And if we need help to get there, with a little bit of yayin, to help us achieve that clarity, that's the order of the day, to mechazik ourselves in our sense of emunah. Kimu v'kiblu haYehudim, Kabbalas HaTorah, Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shamayim. So yes, indeed, just like on Yom Kippur, at the end of the day, we cry out at the top of our lungs, Hashem Hu HaElokim. So Yom Kippur, Yom Kippurim, as the Arizal tells us. So the mission, at the end of the day, if we're successful on our Purim, we'll in the very same way cry out from the bottom of our hearts 7 times, permeating every aspect of our lives. Hashem Hu Elokim, Hashem Hu Elokim.